beautifully chanted meditation. The selected slokas actually, according to me, represents the essence of the whole of Bhagavad-Gita, or the intelligence that is embedded within the Bhagavad-Gita is actually encapsulated in that 9 slokas is basically what I mean. And that is what I have listed it out here as the essential GI, essential Gita Intelligence. So, first of those verses is 247, which is Karmanyevadhikaraste Mahaleshu Katadinaha, which actually implies that we should be driven by intrinsic motivations that are true to our core. That is basically what it says. It should not be that we should be looking for results, but we should be looking at the intrinsic things that actually motivate. The motivation should be for the intrinsic things that provide quality, accuracy, precision, etc. for whatever you are doing. So, in a practical sense, the touching with the self implies touching with the quality, the utility, precision and accuracy of what you do in whatever you are engaged in, whether you are working at a professional workplace, or you are at home, or you are in the society, or doing voluntary actions, whatever it is, Q, U, P and A, quality, utility, precision, accuracy becomes the intrinsic motivations for which we do things. So that is basically what Bhagavad-Gita talks about initially as a rule for Karma Yoga. And then the third chapter talks about the selflessness that you should bring into those actions. What you do for quality, utility, precision, accuracy. Anybody can advise you that. But the Bhagavad-Gita then takes the next dose, which is that you should actually do that with the right sense of right attitudes. And Gita talks about 4 attitudes, which are the selfless attitudes, which are basically about, yajna, Tyaga, Samarpana and Prasada Bhavas. Cooperation, sacrifice, dedication, and Prasada Bhava, which is about the concept of positive thinking. Or it says it is a mental attitude of abundance. So this is basically what you should bring into those actions that you are doing for quality, utility, precision and accuracy. And then the third sloka, Chadurvaranyam Maya Srishtam, which is from the 4th chapter, it talks about how you apply your mind's power, which is thought power, into doing all these things. And there are 4 attitudes that humanity possesses. And Bhagavad-Gita very clearly talks about just 4 aptitudes, 4 aptitudes, nothing else. Your mathematics ability, or your literature ability, or whatever, all those musical abilities are all the aptitudes that we talk about in the external world. But in whatever such aptitudes that we bring forth in this world, there are 4 fundamental things that should drive humanity. And that is a human aptitude. The 4 human aptitudes, which are creativity, productivity, enrichment, and the dexterous nature of what we do. Creativity is about, to be able to think about new things, create knowledge, and also to transmit that knowledge to others. The ability to do that is one. Productivity is about applying the knowledge to do things in the best manner possible, efficiently and optimally. And then comes the enrichment factor. Enrichment is about evaluating the possible outcomes and evaluating the nature of what you are doing to gain as much advantage as possible for yourself as well as for the society in general. So that is enrichment. And then of course you have to do it with dexterous what you call skill sets. So this is basically what Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra is all about. So the 4 aptitudes are productivity, creativity, enrichment and dexterousness. Then the next one is about self-direction. 6th chapter, Dhyana Yoga is all about self-direction. How the self should be the directing force within you, not your mind, not your intellect and not your senses. But if the senses, the mind and the intellect are your directors, then you will be going astray for instant pleasures, sense gratifications and things like that. Instead, it is talking about the power that is within you, the self. That is the self, the Atman. That Atman is a spark of the infinite, the Brahman. So that's basically what it talks about, self-direction, being directed by the self. So your mind and intellect constantly in touch with the self is what is called the meditative state of living. And that meditation is basically what we should do every day when you are doing some things on the office, at home. If your mind and intellect is fully focused on the self, then you are in a state of meditation. Fully focused on the self, meaning you apply your creative, productive, enriching and dexterousness in doing what you want, in applying the selfless attitudes of Yajna, Tyaga, Samarpana, Prasada, Bhavas for the quality, utility, precision and accuracy. Just imagine, see how it is well connected. The Bhagavad-Gita has been designed in such a fashion that it is, this process of excellence is perfectly, actually knit together or, strung together as beads in a necklace. So, 6th chapter of self-direction, and then prior to that, 5th and 4th chapters talking about all these things, about self-direction, integrated attitudes, selfless attitudes, and intrinsic motivations. Connecting all this together is what is called as Karma Yoga. And that first 6th chapter talk about Karma Yoga, and then comes the next 6 chapters dealing with, your mind's qualities of undivided focus and inspiration, connecting to that self. That is about refining your mind such that you are constantly engaged in all your thoughts and actions, constantly thinking about and in being inspired by the self. I am not inspired by my thoughts and my arrogance and my pleasures and senses and all those things. I am inspired by the fact that I am being powered by an infinite force that is in everyone, and that's the same self. And that self, that is what inspiration is all about. Being inspired by the self within, that is inspiration. Or you'll say, if you define it properly, the greatest motivation is about being, seeking the joys of the inner self. Seeking the joys of the inner self constantly is what is called inspiration. And that inspiration is the highest form of devotion. And that is called as, in Sanskrit, bhakti. Normally what happens is when you say bhakti, you equate it to devotion. It is not enough. It is not just devotion. It is the devotion to the inner self. Always being inspired by this inner self, which is again, what is that inspiration for the inner self? Being constantly your work and being constantly intrinsically motivated with quality, utility, precision, and accuracy. So that is bhakti. That is bhakti in this living in this world. Then in the final 6 chapters talks more and more about this self, qualities of the self, the properties of the self as differentiated by the qualities of nature, which is sattva, rajas, and tamogunas, and how you can reach infinitude. And therefore, combining self with the BMI is basically what will bring you perennial success. That is what Sanjaya promises in the end. That yatra yogeshwara krishna, yatra partho dhanurdharaha, tatra sri vijayo budhar, dhruva nedir mathur mama. Okay, so it's like, the last Gita is nothing but giving you the self-realization. The realization that you are the infinite self. Infinitude. Brahman. Brahman means infinite. Infinitely large. So the Sanskrit term Brahman itself implies infinite. And what is infinite? It includes everything. Everything that is past, present and future. Everything, even becoming and non-becoming, living and non-living, everything is included in that. That is why it is called as infinite. Therefore, in Sanskrit it was termed Brahman. And that is what all of us are part of, or all of us are energized by that power only, self. And then you have a body, mind and intellect that is being energized. We are a human being. What happens is we need to polish that physical thing. Polish out that with what? Selflessness, karma yoga, and taking ownership. Becoming and taking complete ownership of that. That is this intrinsic motivation. And then comes the attitudes and the aptitudes. The Yajna, Tyaga, Samarpana, Prasada Bhavas, and the aptitudes of creativity, productivity, enrichment, and dexterity. And then the 5th chapter talks about fortitude, mental fortitude, which is about actually, you should be able to do things, but without getting attached to the results. Your actual fortitude is about giving up your constant look at the results, and your ability. I mean, your thirst for getting something out of doing, personally, for getting something out of what you are doing personally. But looking at the other qualities only is basically what is called as fortitude, and with that you should be able to reach a state of mindfulness which is about your constant BMI being connected with the self. That is mindfulness. So you can see how the chapters are organized, taking ownership about your actions is basically what Arjuna was doing it initially from the Arjuna Vishada Yoga. Selflessness is about the essence of Bhagavad-Gita, which was given in the second chapter, and third chapter talked about attitude, fourth chapter talked about aptitudes, the fifth chapter talked about fortitude, and the sixth chapter talked about mindfulness. So that order, and this package is what is called as Karma Yoga. Okay, next. And then it was wrapped up with your mind trying to understand and come to connect with the self, get into love with yourself, which is about understanding its universality, that you are universal, sustainability or imperishability, that you are imperishable, and that you are infinite. So all of us are actually this, what is that? Universal, imperishable, and infinite. That is what the 8th chapter, 7th chapter, 8th chapter, and 9th chapter teaches us. 7th, 8th, and 9th chapter teaches us that you are universal, imperishable, and infinite. And then the 10th and 11th chapters talked about examples of excellence everywhere, Vibhuti Yogam and then Vishwarupa Darshanam. And ultimately, this leads to a state of mind that is called as inspiration. That is Bhakti Yoga, 12th chapter. And then, after that, there is talk about your qualities as a BM of the BMI, which is about knowledge, passion, and ignorance. That is purity, aggression, and passivity. Sattva, Rajas, Tamo gunas. And the various what you call projections of these gunas in whatever you think and do. That is given in chapters 13, 14, 16, 17, and finally 18. In between there is 15th chapter also, which talks about the essence of Bhagavad-Gita in a practical way. Of perfection, reaching perfection, Purushottama Yoga. Okay. So that is it. And if you really understand this, then what happens is, you start understanding that you are nothing but the self. Everything merges into that power that is within you. And this union is basically what Bhagavad-Gita is talking about. This union is your release from the limitations of your body, mind, and intellect. You are thinking, if you think that I am incapable, I cannot do this, I am not fit for this, that is your BMI telling you that. That you should not take that as a message. What is to be taken is the infinite self's infinite power, the power from within. And if you understand, if you realize that you are the self and not the BMI is perishable, but the self is imperishable, and the self is powerful and it can give you everything. Okay, so go to previous. Okay, if we can go to 12th, this one. Okay, so it is about the power of the self. The power of the self has the capability to create as well as to nourish. That is it. Our power, whatever you have in you, it has that power within you, has the power to create as well as to nourish. Two things. The power to create before that, first power to nourish whatever you presently have. Your capabilities that you possess now. If you want to exhibit that, or you want to employ those capabilities, competencies and capabilities to do whatever you want, then all you need to do is to focus and be dedicated to your goal. And then you express your competencies. But if we need to create new capabilities, that you do not have existing capabilities, then you need to learn. You need to retrain yourself. If you want to do that, Then you need focus and dedication combined with self-control and equanimity. This is what Gita talks about. And why? What are these things and all the details? I am not going into that. But the qualities required of the mind, focus, dedication, self-control, and equanimity, will actually help you to make the capabilities obvious, and then you can start nourishing it and express it as competencies in the outside world. This is the essence of the 12th chapter of Bhagavad-Gita, which is Bhakti Yoga, and then go forward. So in fact, you can see that this capabilities, who gives us these capabilities? The physical device, which is our brain. And that brain, to nourish capabilities, which is about learning and perfecting. And to create new capabilities about retraining. And all these things, these are the three fundamental things that the brain does, nothing else. The brain does not do anything else, only these three things. That is learning, perfecting, and retraining, which is called as what? Making synaptic connections, myelinating your connections, and neurogenesis. Three things. With these three things, everything is possible. And these three things are given to us by nature. You apply your power of the self and get to all this. So this is basically, I just realized that, not now, recently, that if you actually study neuroscience, you will find that Bhagavad-Gita is talking about neuroscience. In fact, it's the processes and the procedures mentioned in the Bhagavad-Gita are nothing but the what do you call strategies and procedures that you actually employ so that your brain is developed. In fact, that is 12th chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita is a great illustration of how science and spirituality merges. And that is an essence that we need, all of us need to carry forward. Okay, so last one. Do all the things. Okay, so you see how the Gita is developing and then helping us merge to the self. That is Bhagavad Gita. Okay, and so it is all about thinking. It is all about articulating what you actually think about, and then you express what you actually articulate. Next. So think, articulate, and express. You think, and then you actually translate your thought into an action plan, which is called as articulation, and then you actual action, that is expression. Thinking, articulating, and expression is the human way of actually getting things done. And that is basically what should be powered. And this is the essence of us chanting Om Tat Sat at the end of every sloga or every spiritual discourse. So I would also end with Om Tat Sat, which Ashwin also did at the end. Om Tat Sat implies that let that infinite, that powerful infinite, which is basically what all of us are. That infinite, let that infinite bless me and help me to think properly, to give me the powers of the mind to articulate that thought, and then finally give my body, senses, and the organs to express that in the outside world. Om Tat Sat.